Hi, today I'm going to be looking at mounting two little seedlings of Robiquetia spathulata. Now, from the research I have done, some of the research suggests that this species likes to be potted in small media. But I know from experience in growing other Robiquetias within the family that they do quite well on mounts as well. I have a very big quality awarded Robiquetia wassilii, which is very happy growing on cork. And so what I'm doing today is I've got two seedlings, and so I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to firstly mount one on tree fern mount. And to try and start this off, because it's only a young plant, I've got 2 strips of moistened sphagnum moss. And I've tied that down. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to empty out my pot seedling. And free it from its pot. And so now I've got a bare root. And I'm going to lay this one in the naturally occurring way that it grows. So you can see that this species likes to grow down and then taper up under its own steam. So I'm not going to grow it standing upright on the mount like so, because that will defeat the purpose. It'll grow straight up and then bend over, and I don't want it to do that. What I would like it to do is grow this way first, and then once it gets some length to it, the plant will actually, or naturally, bend up towards the light. So it will be at a better looking mount. So now that I've done that, I'm going to arrange the roots so they are in contact with some moist sphagnum moss. And you'll notice that I've got a gap in between the 2 strips of sphagnum moss, and that gap is where I'm going to put the base of the plant. So you can see I'm putting the base of the plant there in between the sphagnum moss. So the base of the plant doesn't stay wet for too long. I don't want that base to be in contact with too much moisture, otherwise it will rot. So the sphagnum moss is just there to help the plant initially, and then once the plant takes off, the roots will grow to where they're happiest, and hopefully that's around the remainder of the mount. So I'm just rearranging those roots so that they are more upright. I've got my fishing line already started. And away I go. So very gently at first, so I don't strangle the young plant, or I don't cut any of the new roots to get nutrients back to the main plant. It's just there to secure the plant down so it doesn't fall off, and put the roots down into close proximity to the mount, so as when they continue to grow, they will do what they feel best. Might turn it round this way, it's a lot easier. And this long root I'll tie around the back, so it goes over the top and around the back, so as it gives it the idea that it needs to attach around the mount. So I've caught that long one behind as well. And then I'll come back and tie that off onto the hanging wire with a few half hitches. And remembering that the half hitches need to be tight, and try and overlap those over each other. And going in opposite directions. And I think that should do it. So tighten that off, cut off the excess. Now that's what it looks like. So you can see I've got a channel left between the two strips of sphagnum moss for the roots to go through. There's a lovely new root coming on there. I haven't touched the tip of that, so hopefully I haven't damaged anything. So it will continue to grow and it will find its happy place, whether it be on the sphagnum for extra moisture or whether it avoids the sphagnum and goes directly into the tree fern. Now that's now adhered to. It will hang on a slight angle in the greenhouse, so the moisture will run down and no moisture will accumulate in the crown of the plant. It's like any other Vandaceous plants. You don't want water accumulating in the crown because that will tend to cause problems with bacteria and rot, and then you lose the crown of your plant. Now, with the wire at the back, what I like to do is I like to bend it down first and hold it down with my long nose pliers and then bend it back up. And what that does, it puts what we call a little gooseneck in the wire. You can see that little gooseneck. I'll put it side on so you can see it. And you can tighten up that gooseneck with your pliers. Straighten that up. And the reason I've done that is once I put my tag onto the wire, the tag sits in that little bit of a gooseneck and sits neatly behind without sticking out. And then you can put your final hook on the top so it's ready to hook in its hanging space in the orchid house. So that's my first one. The next one's a little bit different. Because the media and research that I looked at said that they like to be potted as well in a very loose, open mix, I've looked at a little Vanda pot, a little Vanda basket. However, because the holes in the Vanda, or the slats in the Vanda basket are too wide, the media will fall out. So I've used this little plastic mesh that you can buy for bonsai, excuse me, and I fitted that inside the internal of the basket, so as that way my media will fit into it and not fall out. Excuse me. Again, knocking my little seedling out of its pot. This one doesn't have as many roots, it's a smaller plant. And so what I need to do here is keep the plant clear of where the medium is going to be. And I'm going to tie it I'm going to tie the plant loosely up towards the back. There's a hole in the pot there, and I'm going to get some aluminium tie wire. Make a U-shaped hook. And loosely tie that plant off, so I don't want to strangle it again. Sorry, you can't see it. So it's very loosely put there. Now you can see that there are roots that are aerial. Now aerial roots are different to roots that have been in media, in that they are a lot drier and wirier. The vellum, or the wall thickness of the vellum on aerial roots, is a different thickness to the ones that are in media. And what happens is, if you put aerial roots into media, you can run the risk of rotting them. So I'm going to leave them half in and half out. And now I'm going to get some media and put the media around the base of those roots. Now it's quite an open mix, and it's a mixed combination of bark, charcoal and perlite. Now you can buy that in bags already pre-mixed from your orchid suppliers, and just shake that into place. And it's very loose. I'm not putting too much media on it because I don't want to drown those roots with too much moisture around them. And there you have it. So here are your aerial roots. Like I said, just tuck the ends of those in the media if you want, or just leave them out. They will sort themselves out because they've been growing out in the air and they're used to being out in the air. Whereas the ones below were in the pot, in the medium, and they are happy with the medium around them because they have a different wall thickness of vellum, which means that they will hold more moisture in the root and they don't need to absorb so much moisture, whereas the aerial roots, being drier, will absorb a little bit more moisture when they're watered or fertilized. And all that's left to do now is to put a name tag on it. Now this one, all I'm going to do is tie a name tag on with a bit of aluminium wire. And I can tie that towards the back of the plant. And there we have two different ways of treating the same species. And like I said, orchid growing is a lot of trial and error. Once you've done your research, or once you've had some experience of your own, you need to make a judgment call. So what I've done here, because I had two plants of the same, I've experimented. I've put one on a mount, which I know should take off, because I've grown them that way before, and I've put this one in a little basket which I've included some finer mesh so as the media doesn't fall through, and hanging that like so on a slight angle. Again, you'll notice that the leaves will face down, the moisture will run out once it's watered, and you won't run that risk of rotting out the crown of the plant. So that's Robiquetia spathulata and two different methods of potting that up.